welcome to my professional development project as part of the Graduate Fellowship in Residential Environmental Education here at Conserve School. This video is a synthesis of 3 professional development goals accumulating in an extracurricular experiment that was both fun and educational for myself and the students.
In 1977, the Tbilisi Conference in Georgia was a major milestone in environmental education, with 65 nations present for 12 days. The conference summary recommended, in part, that environmental education in the future provide every person with opportunities to acquire knowledge, values, attitudes, commitment, and skills needed to protect and improve the environment. Additionally, Tbilisi advocated to create new patterns of behavior exhibited by individuals, groups, and society as a whole toward the environment. Around the same time, Harvey, 1977, developed the first framework for environmental education pertaining to environmental literacy, which included cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domains. A little later, Hungerford and Volk, 1990, created an environmental education framework that connected knowledge, skills, and behavior. These components were supported by the development of entry-level, ownership, and empowerment variables. And most recently, in 2007, the 4th International Conference on Environmental Education in Ahmedabad, India, created a summary of new recommendations for the field. The summary, in part, advocated a continuous search for new paradigms and innovations, as we do not have all the answers for creating sustainable futures. It also stressed that teaching and learning should make us of diverse methodologies and be sufficiently flexible to cater to the various needs of learning in different cultures, contexts, and nations. Such teaching and learning should incorporate ethical and critical reflection as well as creative thinking, such as those that characterize arts, design, and creative cultural fields. Finally, to use non-formal education practices to enhance ties and strengthen the relationship between formal education and the local community.
Milstein et al. Describes a sense of place as an eco-cultural lens that comes from a Western individualistic concept of self and property. In contrast, a relations in place is a lens that comes from more of a collectivist, community-oriented lifestyle and land use. Where there, learning about the environment is more directly tied to stories, experiences, and relations in the community. So the question is, whose culture and worldview gets to define nature in a large sense? And now that the West and even Wisconsin and Minnesota, where I'm from, is becoming more increasingly diverse with many communities that historically come from a non-Western point of view, this is a big question in how we approach education and outreach. So in order to see the Northwoods in multiple eco-cultural lenses, perhaps an education program could be designed to create a platform for story, community, and experience that encompassing a relations in place, while also reading facts and information that represent a sense of place. And although Conserve School enrolls students from both urban and rural communities across the U.S., because of many factors, few come from a traditional non-Western point of view. The project idea is still applicable in a general sense, in the idea that many youth from all over have an appeal to breakdancing or martial arts or parkour free running, just as something new and exciting and challenging. So my hope would be that students from any cultural background could learn from both a relations in place and a sense of place model. So the project would serve as a cross-cultural experience in both theory and practice.
And now getting down into the particulars. The project has 10 lessons, all with a plant or animal of the Northwoods of Wisconsin being correlated to a movement in breakdancing, the Afro-Brazilian martial art of capoeira, or the emerging art of parkour free running. Each of these lessons starts with a reading of a Flora and Fauna of the Week that Conserve School has on file. These documents are a brief 2 to 3 paragraph summary of a Northwoods plant or animal. It includes natural history and a photo. So after reading the description, I would draw a comparison between the plant or animal with a movement of one of these art forms. Once we transition into learning and practicing the movement, we then reiterate the ecology facts periodically to support the brain's ability to learn from the active psychomotor skills. So lesson 1 was perhaps the most obvious, relating the tiger swallowtail butterfly to the butterfly kick. And the tiger swallowtail is a species that usually prefers flying higher in the treetops. So this notion of floating and flight is really brought into this jump. In Lesson 2, we related the woodland jumping mouse to basic parkour stalls. We read how the mouse can jump up to 10 feet in length and is very agile when it jumps across forest floors. So we mimic this by working on solid landings and being very agile in our jumps ourselves. In Lesson 3, we took porcupines and related them to what's known as the Mealua Gicompaso, or compass kick, in the art of capoeira. We read how the porcupine can't actually shoot its quills at a predator, but it can and has been known to swing its tail. So here is a kick that swings from behind all the way around in a circle. In Lesson 4, we took the short-tailed shrew and related them to Zulu spins, or what's known as hole in capoeira. So the shrew is a, of course, low-to-the-ground creature that burrows in leaf litter and under logs. So this movement is also low to the ground and simulates that burrowing effect. The shrew actually is known to paralyze its prey with venomous saliva, so we joked that some of these movements, particularly these hooks, were kind of like a paralyzing punch, or the paralyzing knockout when the shrew bites its prey. In Lesson 5, we took the cattail mosquito and related it to coffee grinder, backspins, and double leg flow. The mosquito has a breathing siphon in which it attaches itself to aquatic vegetation in its larval stage. And this is how it gets oxygen in that stage. So the spinning on the back simulated being upside down or in the water, as the water might be wavy, and the coffee grinder with a straight leg mimicked the breathing siphon. In Lesson 6, we took the bobcat and related it to what's known as kickouts and the six step. It's pretty simple in that the bobcat, as a cat species, is very agile on its feet and sure in its step. For example, chasing a snowshoe hare, needing to turn on a dime and make a quick jump at prey would be simulated by this very agile footwork. Lesson 7. Relating loons and diving ducks to handstands, cartwheel, and what's known as AU. So taking this notion of being upside down and just comparing it to being underwater, we watched how these diving ducks actually position themselves to dive underwater. Once we did that, we could try to shift our weight in a similar way to then really look at the mirror and look at our surroundings while we're upside down. Lesson 8, Pearly Everlasting and Headstands headspins, eventually. We took the basic structure of the plant in its Y shape and tried to make that into an inspiration for being upside down and really planting your hands and trying to be very rooted and solid. Then being able to balance and spread your legs into a Y similar to the flower. Once that's practiced enough, it does turn into headspins. Lesson 9, we took the wood frog and compared it to breakdancing friezes. This one was unique in that it related to how the frog's skin actually freezes solid over the winter. Its heart stops, they cease to breathe, and you really wonder why they're alive. The key to their survival is that they have a special protein in their blood and their livers releasing a lot of glucose into their body. So this was kind of just a general inspiration for these freezes and holding ourselves in the position. Finally, in Lesson 10, we took oak ferns and related them to the bridge variations. Oak ferns have a spiral effect when they are grouped in clusters because of a slight curvature at the end of their blades. So the bridge is just a motion that has a curve to it and kind of is an inspiration for that.
So perhaps this isn't as new as I've made it out to be due to my limited and somewhat new scope in the field, but either way we can see that the thinking and rationale for this idea has been in the works for about 30 years since the first Tbilisi Declaration in 1977. So a curriculum like this would require some more fine-tuning, a bit more practice for how to actually teach it and really make it really blend together. And then the networking component with different people, different arts groups, with educators coming together is a very large project to take on. But I hope this was of some help to thinking about the future of environmental education, and thank you very much for watching.